Welcome to AgriMinds, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Kacee, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AgriMinds. Welcome to another episode of AgriMinds. Today, I've got Stephen Valenscin with me, who is the CEO of Growers. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, Kacee, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm really excited to hear. First of all, I think you're the first male that we've had on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just thought of that. That wasn't the plan, but it seems like the majority of the men have been from a female perspective.
Interesting. I'm probably going to disappoint all of the listeners.
I don't think so. I think that if we've had any listeners that's listened to any other podcast, they're like, this is a typical Kacee thing. So it's totally fine. I would love to hear your version of your journey and share a little bit about like who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today. Feel free to share all the things.
Yeah. All right. It is quite a journey. So I might we might have to take some pit stops because it's been a trip. Let me tell you that much. But starting from where you sort of left off. So yeah, today I am the CEO of Growers. Growers is a company that I started about 12 years ago. We're building technology for the agriculture sector, specifically farmers, retailers, and manufacturers. So how I got here is rather interesting, but my background is kind of like only in agriculture. I tell most people, and I think this is true, that I'd probably be good at nothing else. And I'm like maybe even only questionably good at this. But apart from a couple years I spent in the United States Navy, I've been involved in agriculture literally, from the womb. So it's, securely in my blood. I was born in Washington State, and then my family actually relocated to South Dakota. That's where my family still lives. Several of them still farm in South Dakota, and I, consider that home. And then I live in North Carolina. So I, after high school, I joined the Navy, ended up on the East Coast. And then when I got out of the Navy, I finished my degree at North Carolina State University for ag business. That's where I met my wife. And when I tried to convince her to move back to South Dakota, that was a non-starter. Her parents threatened to kill me. And so we stayed in North Carolina, and here I am. That's been about 15 years ago. So we live in a little small farming community here in the central kind of area of North Carolina. And I also started farming, here with, borrowing and sometimes, trading for equipment and services, but started farming a little bit here in North Carolina as well, which has been pretty, fun, but also just keeps me, extremely grounded to the industry that I serve and the, extremely difficult dynamics that is production agriculture. So I don't get to do it as much as I used to, but still stay pretty connected to it. And so how do we get to Growers? Okay, so when I was at NC State, I kind of just recognized an opportunity via an internship I had with a farmer in East North Carolina. And it was to take soil samples, right? It was actually the analysis of soil sampling. I was taking soil samples for him. We were shipping them, out of state. And I was like, why in the heck is nobody doing this in North Carolina? And I thought at that point in time, like, surely there must be a machine that you just like pour a cup of soil into and out come the results. And like, voila, that's soil analysis. Turns out that's not true at all. It's mostly all like chemistry. And I somehow graduated high school without taking a chemistry class. Don't ask me how. So I knew very little about it. And it was it was a very like formidable lesson for me to learn, because I basically convinced myself after this that like you can literally teach yourself and learn nearly anything you want in any amount of time, so long as you're willing to put in the work. So I went from like probably couldn't even read a periodic table of elements to being a full-fledged soil scientist in 6 months, mostly from like harassing people at the chemistry department at NC State and talking to equipment manufacturers in Germany and Australia on all this analytical equipment, and did all this while I was still finishing my degree. And long story short, launched this this little, piddly soil testing laboratory, and ran it, basically I moved all my classes around, went to school 2 days a week, ran the soil lab 3 days a week, and was, selling soil sampling basically every weekend. It's how I learned how to sell. I went and saw literally every single retailer location in the state of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia one summer, just to get volume and educate the market on the opportunity that we had, which was our big kind of competitive advantage at the soil lab, which was called Southern Soil and Water, was really fast turnaround time. And one of the things that we did to create volume and drive business for the soil lab was I actually started taking the soil samples myself. So I would actually go to the farmers and be like, hey, this was 15 years ago. And it's crazy to think how much has changed in the evolution of soil testing technology and variable rate agriculture. But 15 years ago, it was still pretty rudimentary, and not a lot of people were doing it. And so I started a pretty big services business attached to the lab, where I would go out and take the soil samples, do the analysis, provide the recommendations, generate the fertility reports and the prescription maps, help them get it loaded up into their equipment, and ultimately execute variable rate fertilizer prescriptions. And did that for 2 years, and it was acquired by a competitor who now runs the lab and is one of the largest laboratory networks in the Southeast. And when that happened, I started growers because I was becoming very, very, passionate about this evolution of agronomy, technology, data analytics. How can we marry all those things together and provide a value add service to farmers to help them make better decisions around, how to manage their soil information? Because what I saw running the lab was how little most farmers understood about proper fertility management, proper soil health practices, things like that. So just kind of saw, again, another opportunity. And so that was in 2000, and I think that was in 2010 or 2011. I can't remember, but that's when Growers was officially started. So are you with me so far?
Yes, this is fascinating.
Oh, it gets better. Okay, so yeah, that was kind of the birth of Growers. And then this, again, going back to, this was not prevalent in the market. I actually had a very hard time. I would sell these wonderful recommendations, and farmers were all gung-ho about how do we manage our fertility better and save costs on fertilizer. But there wasn't a lot of retailers at the time that actually were applying fertilizer in this way or had the equipment to do it. So I had the not so genius idea I'll just buy my own application equipment, and I'll just add custom application as part of the services that we provide, or I provide. I say we as a misnomer. It was basically my wife and I, she was finishing up her graduate degree. And we ran ourselves ragged all over the state of North Carolina, taking soil samples, and had to buy a semi, had to build a trailer to haul this spreader around, it was actually a sprayer and a spreader. It was a John Deere model that you can, convert and do both, because I thought that was a even more genius idea. And long story short, or short story long, basically about went broke 2 years into the deal, because I had this massive piece of equipment, huge machinery payments, and North Carolina is like the pickle patch farming capital of the world. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's the truth. This field where my house is built in is 9 acres, and it's one of the slightly larger ones in the area, if that puts any perspective for you. In fact, one of the farms that I rented was it was a tract of land. It was 340 acres, had 140 acres of contiguous farm ground. It's the biggest tract of land in all of Guilford County. Very small farms here, which made it very hard to efficiently do custom application services. So I was about to go belly up, and got the harebrained idea to actually go back to South Dakota. So I loaded up my sprayer, my spreader on this literally a homemade semi trailer that I had modified to haul this thing on a semi that I paid $10,000 for, that hardly had a working instrument gauge, on it, and drove that sucker all the way to South Dakota in the middle of the winter. and started doing, custom application out in the Midwest, and luckily fell into some retailers where it's like, God's grace, fortunately for me, unfortunately for this guy, he'd gotten a DUI at this retailer, so they didn't have a custom applicator. So I just kind of slid right in there and ended up doing, I think almost 60,000 acres worth of spraying and spreading in a 3-month period in central South Dakota, and was just, running myself ragged, but was, trying to get the business back on solid footing. And I did that for another year, kind of basically trying to do it in both places. So I was managing my business here in North Carolina, still trying to maintain and grow like the soil sampling and the services work, and then was flying back and forth basically whenever it rained for 2 or 3 days from South Dakota back to North Carolina to see my wife, so she wouldn't leave me. And at the end of the season, made a sweetheart deal to a farmer in middle of South Dakota and sold him the entire outfit. One just truck, trailer, semi, sprayer, spreader, everything. He took it all. And got out of the custom app business, and then, really kind of put growers back on a slightly more stable foundation. And then fast forward a few years, we started actually building technology to enable basically the scaling of our services and the recommendation and the algorithms that we had created to create a pretty unique way to generate fertility recommendations that were based on like an economic threshold, which was unique and farmers were really loving. And when we started building technology, that's what introduced us to ag retail, because ag retail wanted to use that to provide similar services to their client. And so around 2015, 2017, we made a pretty hard shift from a services business to a technology company, which was a pretty big lift and shift for me, because I am not a engineer by training or practice or anything. But I also thought that was kind of part of our advantage, because I wouldn't have started building technology had there been solutions that existed already in the marketplace that worked for companies and businesses like mine. And so since it didn't exist, I thought, hey, if I can put together a world-class engineering team, combine that with like a true boots on the ground understanding of like the way it really works out in the real world and with farmers, then maybe we have something. And because this was, in the thick of like the ag tech boom, when everybody thought that everybody needed to get access to farmers' data. And if you did, you'd be $1 billion company because that had been done before. So the market was just getting really convoluted. And that's what we really wanted to separate ourselves from, is like, can we build real technology that works for real people in agriculture? And that ultimately kind of carried us into around 2019. I was working on a relationship with Amazon, actually, they wanted to leverage some of the technology inside this ecosystem that they were trying to develop. We were very early on in the discussions, and they said, hey, there's a company in Israel that is seems like trying to do the same thing. And I was like, this is interesting. I love Israel, Christian, just think that Israel is kind of the most unique, special place on earth. It's like literally, God's people. I was like, this is way too, random. There must be something amazing going on here. And long story short, I think I've said that 3 times now, but promise I'm getting to it. I got connected to the CEO of this company called ICL Group, and ICL is a specialty fertilizer and chemicals company that's based out of Tel Aviv, but has a global presence and sells a variety of different products that span the agriculture, the industrial products kind of sectors. They make all kinds of things that you know about and have never heard about. And digital agriculture was an investment thesis for them in terms of like their next, kind of 100-year strategy. And so I met the CEO, and we were very aligned on the vision of like, hey, what is the opportunity here? What is the role and the fit that technology plays inside agriculture? And how could we accelerate that by partnering? And so we were able to put a little bit of a deal together, and because I had raised some capital, along this journey, when we started developing software, I raised some capital, started working with some venture capitalists that helped kind of fund the growth of the business. So kind of been down that whole journey, which is like a whole nother topic we can get into if you want. But in 2020, February 18th to be exact, ICL acquired, I sold, my business to ICL. And then about 3 weeks later, the whole world shut down with COVID. So we spent, kind of the rest of that year really kind of like reorganizing our business. I had 2 offices at that point in time. We had one in Durham, one in Seattle. We shut down the office in Seattle, moved the development team here into the East Coast, generally, most of them here in the Raleigh-Durham area, rebuilt massive components of our technology, and then relaunched it again in November of that year. We have a product in the market. It's called Growers Rally, which ag retailers use to kind of manage their entire sales process, as well as a more efficient way to digitally engage with their customer. And then last year, we launched another new product, which is for farmers to use to manage the relationship in the input procurement process, effectively creating a marketplace between retailers and farmers and an easier way to do business together. And have since added, banking relationships to that equation now, where what we are executing against today and the mission of growers is to put technology in the hands of every, farmer, advisor, and buyer in agriculture, because we think the role of technology is to give farmers access to the things that they need. Because despite being an agronomist at heart, I don't believe that technology is going to solve for us like the algorithm to grow the perfect corn crop 100% of the time. I do believe that technology and the benefit that's going to provide to agriculture is providing farmers access to what they need to be, profitable and sustainable as a business. And so we define that as inputs, capital, markets, and land. Because if you look anywhere in the world at any farmer and you can measure the degree and quality of which they have access to those 4 things, you can pretty much predict their success. That's why it's a lot easier to farm in central Indiana than it is in central Nicaragua, right? And so if technology can provide access to farmers for those 4 things and do so globally, then we can have a pretty positive impact on the entire, literally, world. And I don't mean that in a tongue-in-cheek way. I honestly do believe it. And that's what we're executing on today at Growers as a part of ICL, a wholly owned kind of independent subsidiary. We have really no affiliation other than we get, access to some of the most amazing, benefits and resources and people that company has to offer, but they allow us, to continue to execute against our vision of really trying to change the world with technology and agriculture. So, there's been a million kind of like, setbacks and failures and comebacks along that journey, but where we are today, it's been pretty incredible to see how honestly the Lord has just kind of perfectly architected the journey to get to where we are today. Because pretty much for the last 15 years, I've been doing nothing but trying to screw it up. And so we've survived, and we're really excited about kind of the next 10 years, the next 15 years at Growers, because we're, I honest to God thinks it takes about that long in this industry to kind of slowly start to feel like the rock is moving in the right direction. And that in itself makes this probably one of the most challenging industries to kind of penetrate and master. And it's why there's like a graveyard of companies out there that have tried, and it hasn't been for lack of like exceptional technology or value propositions. It's just been, I think, a lot of it, right, is for the lack of time, right? Like you have to, this is a survive and advance, type of industry. And if you cannot survive, you will not advance. And it's this, you have to survive in order to succeed, type of conundrum. And that's difficult to do because there's just a lot of things that don't mesh well with the way investors want to invest in the space, the way people think about long-term and patient capital. I've mostly come to believe that there is no such thing as patient capital. And most people that tell you that will disappoint you. But this is a tough space to play in. And I wouldn't say by any stretch of the imagination we've like got it figured out, but because we're literally still out here fighting for every inch. But I do feel like, after dang near 12 to 15 years, if you include Soil Lab, we're finally hitting that point where it's like, we've got, brand equity. People know about it, heard about us. And most of the time it's like, oh, you're still around. Oh, then maybe you are doing something worth paying attention to. So just continuing to have a heartbeat is a big advantage inside of this space. And so we're finally seeing kind of the fruits of that where we are today. Ironically, like I mean, clear as day, like I remember my motivation for literally doing anything after I got out of the Navy and went to school was like, I'm going to do this thing so I can make enough money that I can actually afford to, to farm or start my own thing. Right. It was always like farming was the end game. Do this thing, buy this, piece of land, buy this equipment, go farm. And so like the soil testing lab, it was like, it wasn't like I was deeply passionate about soil chemistry. I mean, right. Like I explained, I didn't even know what that really meant. But it was like, hey, here's an opportunity. Maybe I can make a bunch of money so I can go farm. And then when the opportunity to buy some of this equipment is like, hey, here's an idea. Maybe I can like use my business to make a bunch of money and buy some equipment and go farm. And so it was like that for a while, honestly. And until, I really started like seeing the potential and the impact that we were making, with like, we scaled from a little small services company in North Carolina to then like we were serving farmers in 27 states and we had big teams and offices everywhere. And it was like, when that happens, you have to make this like, cataclysmic shift as a leader, which is a really, really hard thing to navigate for somebody like at least myself, right, who like prefers and likes to be very, hands-on and like know the details. And it probably, I mean, granted, I would admit I'm probably like still going through this transition, but I remember, there was like 2 or 3 years there where it was really, really, really hard for me to kind of let go of a lot of the responsibilities that I had in kind of every aspect of the business, and then start trusting and empowering other people of the team to take that on. And it's funny because I've helped a lot of my own, employees and direct reports kind of like navigate that same shift. And I just like, I can empathize with them because like, I'm just a few years down the road ahead of them. But it's like, everybody kind of goes through or has to go through that evolution of like, from I am the person that's doing it to now I'm the person that's leading the people that's doing it. And that was a tough thing for me to do for a few years there. And I really had to like double down and invest in like, how can I learn how to be a better leader, and take what I know and like, what I know about how farmers behave and how they want to engage with technology and what the opportunities are, right? And embed that into the culture of this company. And then so it's like manifested in the people who are as passionate about the problems that I think are important to the industry and important to farmers as I am, and that I think has been probably one of the coolest things to see. And again, I totally haven't nailed it, and I'm working on it every day. But that I think has really helped kind of get over maybe that a little bit of that complex that you described, which I think is very accurate. I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I should be doing? Is this what I'm best at doing? I think 10 years ago, the answer was like definitively no. But again, through some of these like trials and mostly tribulations, I've learned that like, and I honestly believe this, right, is that like everything is overcomable. It's just a matter of like how hard you're willing to work and for how long you're willing to work at it. And that's, I think, what really separates, I think, not just, growers or me, but it's just like, I think that's what creates a degree of separation in people, both personally and professionally, is like, especially in an industry that's as difficult as I think this one is, as you very well know, is like, it's just a grind. And there is no way to shortcut it. I've had like almost 10,000 probably ideas on like easier ways to make money. None of them work, right? There's no easy way to do it in this space. And I think I'm finally over that and now just accept and acknowledge that everything we do is going to be hard for a very long time. But if we can maintain, kind of our agility and be very innovative in our approach and be very frugal in how we, think about things and try to always think of a better, unique and different solution, that like this industry does reward people who can do that and identify with that. So that's been our, part of or a component of how we've, navigated that, how we as a company and how me personally has navigated that cataclysmic shift from I paid for college by growing peanuts and scouting cotton. And it's been a while since I've been in a cotton field, but I think it's like starting there has enabled, I think me to think through how we run this business and specifically who we're serving a lot better.
I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think not only myself, but many people look at someone who has their own business or has made it to the top of the ladder in an organization or company and just assumes that they're way smarter than I am. They either had way more money or they, got really, really lucky. And so we envy and we're like, how did they get there? How did they figure that out? How, like, what kind of straw did they draw that I didn't? And I love that you're very real and honest about like, listen, stuff was not as easy as I wanted it to be. And I just had to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's 100% it. It's just it's a slog. But again, if there's an advantage in that too, because it weeds out a lot of the chaff, honestly. And again, this is not just applicable to starting a business or running a business in agriculture. It's applicable to serving in agriculture, right? Whether you're a service technician for a major chemical company, or you're schlepping seed, fertilizer, and chemicals somewhere, like all of these things kind of apply. And that is like kind of the bittersweet component of this industry, is that like it does, it is full of a bunch of people who know how to work really, really, really hard. And so when they see that you're like, oh, you're one of us, I get you. You go a lot further faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And you said everything is figure outable. And I agree with that. But sometimes knowing like figure outable or overcomeable doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it on your own. And I would love to hear, you said something about like, I invested in myself. Like, in what ways did you invest in yourself? Was that you financially, like invested and like went through different programs or schooling? Did you invest in yourself by surrounding yourself with the right kind of people? Walk us through a little bit about like, what did investment in yourself look like and how did it affect you personally and professionally?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, I think like the thing that immediately comes to mind and like where I've seen the best like ROI from quote unquote investing in myself is really in the people you surround yourself with. And some of this happens organically, right? And you don't really realize it's happening when it's happening. And I'll give you an example, right? So we in 2015 was like the first time that I entertained taking in outside capital. And that was a ordeal in itself. Just a steep learning curve on how to do it, who to do it with, how to do it right, how to not get screwed, how to protect your interests, how to think about the near term. I mean, it's a fantastically complicated process for anybody who's ever done it, especially the first time. And I mean, I was like, I don't even know how old I am now. I think I was maybe 24, 25 when that happened. And but it's like the group of people that like, essentially you partner with, right? They're your business partners. They're not investors, they're your business partners. But the people that, were partnered in the business, like I learned so incredibly much from them. A lot of good, some bad, but just like learned so much from the people that I've had an opportunity to interact with. Some of it's been intentional, right? Like me kind of seeking out and searching folks that are like, okay, this person has got, an interesting angle on this or that, or I can see that they've done something that's intriguing to me or similar to what I'm trying to, go through. So some of it's been intentional. Most of it's been kind of unconventional. And just in terms of the people you surround yourself, I think ultimately, you learn and grow with or grow from the most. And then on the more like personal level, like I've just been committed for years and years and years and years and years to try to read and consume and learn as much as I possibly can, as often as I possibly can, about pretty much everything that's kind of like racing through my mind. It's sort of become a almost like morning ritual for me, is like to just spend time every single day learning about something. It could be, today it's learning a lot about product management, product development, and different business models and monetization strategies and examples from completely other industries in terms of what's worked and what's not. It's learning about people and change management and how to lead, through difficult times. And but before, it was about raising capital and working with investors and hiring and building teams and things like that. And I think that's maybe one thing that I'm not sure if a lot of people do, but it's something that I think has a really, really high ROI, because it kind of, maybe when it works out the small muscle of your brain that is really, really important to kind of keep developing. And I see, kind of manifestations of where that has helped me personally and professionally over the last several years, and like bringing new concepts and ideas to the table or to my team, challenging them to think in, better, unique, and different ways about how they're approaching things. And it's something that I really, really push for on my own team, and would encourage and literally implore, anybody who is trying to find their place in this world, or just trying to, strike it out and build a profession for themselves, is like being intellectually curious is a massive strategic competitive advantage, massive, because there's a lot of people in the professional space that are not. And so your intellect and your ability to think critically and solve problems and come up with creative solutions and like find a way through anything, right? Not an excuse, but finding a way, creates this like massive degree of separation between you and probably, 92% of the rest of the career field. And so the right personality, right, would hear that and be like, boom, easy. I got this. All I got to do, like, I'm in 100% control of that. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to double down on trying to learn and better everything that I possibly can when I can possibly do it. And like, good things will come, not tomorrow, but good things will come from that. And it's just, it's like, you can't really go wrong, and unfortunately, I don't know if it's a generational thing, because I feel like I have a little bit of an old soul in me too, but I think unfortunately there's not a lot of folks in this generation, right, that think about, how do I better myself in that way? It's more of a, how can they better me, right? And that, I think, is prolific and problematic for all of us, but we will probably don't need to get into that today.
We may need a part 2.
Yeah. For sure.
You mentioned something a little bit ago about when you very first started off, when you moved to North Carolina, that your wife was working alongside you. Okay, first of all, is she from an ag background? And also, is she still a part of the business aspect now? Yeah. And then question number 3, I think a lot of people within the agriculture industry, we, especially on farmers or a ranch, we have a business and our spouse works alongside us.
Yeah.
I just want to hear your thoughts around all of that.
Yeah, no, great question. So the first part of, or the first question yeah, she did come from an agriculture background, which I think is a huge, huge blessing. Her family farmed, here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. Tobacco, is or was and is still kind of the biggest, most predominant crop. It's obviously a lot different scenario today than it was, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, but tobacco built this state pretty much, and her entire family was wrapped up in it. So that was good, right? Just to have like a little bit of a grounding in kind of the insanity that is agriculture at times. And so, yeah, she was heavily involved when we started the company, because I think, I started the soil testing lab before we got married, and then sold it the year after we got married. And so like growers was like our child, for the first several years of our marriage. And it was pretty ugly, to be honest with you, just because of how hard it was to get things off the ground. And I was, gone all the freaking time. And so it wasn't until I think we started having, we had started having kids in I have 2 kids now, who are 9 and 7. So my daughter was born in 2014. And at that point in time, my wife had taken a job, or she was working, she'd finished her degree, was working as a youth, as like a director of youth ministries at the church. And so she wasn't really involved in the day-to-day. And kind of 2015 again is when we started raising capital. And so the team started scaling. So like as the team got bigger and we started having kids, she became a lot less involved in the day-to-day, aspect of the business. So we don't like work hand in hand together in that regard, like we did, 10 years ago. But now she is the prayer warrior for growers. And we're very thankful for that.
I love that. See, okay, Monica Thornburg joined me. I think it's going to be episode, I don't know, 8 or 9. You'll just have to look. But
Okay.
she shared that same thing of like, listen, you just got to go where you're feeling tugged to go and trust that it's going to work out the way that it wants to. And that's been something that I've almost been a little shy on sharing about as a professional, but now that I'm an entrepreneur, I can do whatever the heck I want. And I love that it seems like every conversation that I have, it all comes down to that. And I don't know. I just love that you said she's a prayer warrior for growers. Like, that is so cool. That's the perfect title. I love that.
Yeah. No, it's been pretty amazing. But yeah, no, that's been the evolution of our relationship with growers. It's been cool.
Oh, that's so good. You guys have a fascinating story. And I know that we're coming up on time, but I have one final question for you.
Sure.
Now that you are like this, the CEO, the man, the top of the ladder
not.
here.
Hold on. Whoa. Title. I'm not sure if anything else has changed. But anyway,
you are. I mean,
you're your question.
In my opinion, very successful. And I just want to know, how are you continuing to grow though? Because surely once you reach the top, there's still things to learn about that. I just want to know, like, what are you doing to stay sharp? What are you learning about? What are the things that you're trying to fill the gap in that maybe you're not the super strongest in? I'm always curious to ask that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And yeah, there's definitely, I'm probably, 4% of the way there, if we're being honest. Don't tell anyone.
So humble.
But no, and I think where I still continue to see a lot of the growth opportunities, and not to beat a dead horse here, but is the people that I'm trying to, work with, and a lot, and again, it takes on different shapes and sizes, but I find myself, spending a lot of time working with other executives inside the industry to develop, business relationships. And a lot of times it's in a business development or kind of sales type of context, but I'm getting to engage with, the CEOs and executives of multi-billion-dollar companies. And it is a little bit, humbling, where it's like, I think I have problems. This person just had 2 people in their organization die this morning. Stock price got waxed by, 10% because God knows what happened in Russia. And, I'm over here, crying in my beer about how it's hard convincing employees to come back to the office, so it's like, it's good when you have conversations and when you interact with people who are operating at a totally different level than you, like, it puts you back in perspective, like, okay, all right, let's slow down here. Problems are literally not that serious. They're very serious to me.
They're
right?
valid. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you can't diminish the validity of the problem, exactly like you said. But sometimes it's really encouraging to know that, like, in the spectrum of complexity, there's always much more out there. And the interactions that I have and the learnings that I get to have, whether it's people that are, on my board now, who I get a lot of value from learning from their experiences, because those are the best, by the way, ways to learn is from somebody else's mistakes. After a while, you just get tired of making them yourself, and find out that it's a lot easier to just learn from somebody else's. So that's a very important lesson. The earlier you learn that in your career, the better off you'll be. But yeah, so I do get a lot of value out of the people that I get to spend time with and interact with on a business standpoint. And then our business is evolving and changing so fast. I mean, we 6 months ago took a little bit of a, moonshot, slightly out of desperation, bet on launching a farmer facing application and, connecting 2 sides of our business, farmers and retailers, And we did a ton of like preemptive work to, surveys. And we actually had like 20 or 30 farmers that like joined with us like twice a week to help us build this product out, and felt pretty good about it. And then like launched it, December 1st of last year. And it's the Growers app. And it's been astounding to see like kind of how the market has reacted to it, but also astounding to see how our team has reacted to it, because we've like just gone whole hog on trying to develop this entirely new platform that I think is delivering exceptional value to everybody in the industry, which is super unique. It's not disrupting or disintermediating anything, but it's like also an entirely net new thing, right? It kind of reminds me back of like the soil lab days, where it's like, what in the world, like how do you build out three sides of a marketplace at the same time and figure out how to make money? Well, it's like, well, you can figure that out, right? But it's really hard, and you got to do a lot of work. And so like, that's what I'm spending a lot of time in terms of like investing in growth, is thinking through, how do we solve some of these most complex chicken and egg conundrums, and do so within a time frame that is, very condensed, very stressful, right? Because like, I have expectations placed on me by my, stakeholders now, and I have to pass and a lot of those expectations on my employees. So we're all trying to manage a bajillion different competing, priorities with a finite amount of resources. And that's what I'm like investing in, trying to learn, how to do better. And then I think the thing that I overlay on all of that is like figuring out how to help my team become better in their individual roles at the company. And then obviously as just human beings, because that is, bar none, the biggest force multiplier that anybody, I think, or I would argue, right, you could find inside of the business world. It's not AI, it's not, technology. It's really good people that believe what you believe, are committed to the same values and stand on the same values that you stand on, and are united around a common cause, right? If you can find all of those folks and kind of teach them, train them, equip them to do their job better, like, you can go, what is that saying? It's like, you can go faster alone, but you can go further together, or something like that. I might have ruined it, but that's totally true. And I believe it in my heart of hearts, in terms of just a way to be successful. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that better, for my team. So that's the long and the short of it.
I love that. And that's why I'm so passionate about the working genius. And that's what we're going to be talking about in week number 2 of AgriMinds. And it's just really being self-aware of what you can bring to the table, but also knowing how you can lead your team better because you understand them better.
That's
and
right.
I think it's so powerful and so good that you recognize that it's not just about what do I want, but how do I understand my team better so I can lead them better, to really speak their language so they get what I'm after. So it's so
That's
cool.
right. Yeah. The people aspect of it is like the most challenging, most rewarding aspect of any business. It's like when I was working all by myself, there was like a lot of freedom in that. But like, you can only do but so much. And then when you start bringing on more people, it's like, then you realize that like, it's the most rewarding thing about the job is getting to work with good people. It doesn't mean it's not challenging, but it is like, it's weird how it makes that swap from like my independence and my aloneness is my freedom and my benefit, to like, now I need as many good people as I could possibly put my hands around, and managing that conversion and just generally managing people is difficult, but man, if you can figure it out, that's a superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so much easier to do stuff on your own. Like, I remember one time early on in my marriage, I was like, man, this would just be so much easier if I just did this by myself, or,
Yeah.
raising kids, right? Or
Yep.
running a business. It'd be so much easier if I didn't have to deal with these people in this way. But that is where you grow.
That's
and
right.
having those outside perspectives and having your perspective being challenged, that is where you grow. And that's the power, when you can understand, like, this is uncomfortable. It's not easy. It's a pain in the butt, but that's where I'm going to get better. So I absolutely love that. This has been a good one. I feel like I say that every episode, but they just continue to get better and better. And so I just want to thank you for taking the time to join me and sharing some really honest, transparent, and vulnerable pieces about your journey. if someone wants to follow along with you, learn more about growers, or just connect with you for whatever way, I mean, what's the best place that they can find you or keep up with you?
Yeah, so I do an embarrassingly bad job at the whole social media space. But our website is growers.ag. And that's where you can find more information about the company and kind of if there's, contact us type of forms. And then I think LinkedIn is the only thing that I like halfways managed. So you can find me at Stephen Valenscin on LinkedIn.